Hello all, Amber's right here, and we are going to be talking about the big issue of this last week. That big issue being those 3 or 4 tweets from our Commander-in-Chief. As you all know, Donald Trump put out 4 tweets that basically said he had been talking to some generals and some military experts, and basically all transgendered individuals would not be allowed in the military. It seems to be an across-the-board ban, and it was done by tweet. Now, the reaction was as people would expect. It was, oh my god. It was ranging from oh my god to hoorah when it came to different people's reactions. Of course, the left is going, oh my god, how could he do this? This is so hateful, this is so full of discrimination and just mean-spirited and all of these sort of things. And the right, disgustingly so, is like, yes, this is how it should be. No queers should be in the military. No panty-wearing boys should be in the military. And just stupid shit like this. And, I mean, just, I see in the typical, be a man sort of crap. And, you shouldn't enter the military unless you know you're a man or a woman, which is just ludicrous. Now, there was a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that a lot of people didn't know of. I did some research on this, and I hope people have been doing their research on this.
Why not?
Yeah, I know. There was apparently at least 2 individuals, a congresswoman and some congressmen, that were pushing for, that at first were pushing for the funding of transgender surgery and hormone therapy to not be paid for by the military. But it later turned into, we want an all-out ban of transgendered in the military because they cause too much trouble and other stuff like that. Now, these individuals were going throughout the GOP, going to various members of the GOP and asking for this. And surprisingly so, the GOP members refused to do this, refused to A, cut the funding, and B, kick transgendered out, or push to kick the transgendered out. My understanding is they even got to General Mattis, and Mattis was like, well, yeah, I'm for, he's basically for the defunding of non-military issues to streamline the military and make it a more efficient killing machine, because that is what the military is. But he was not for kicking transgendered out. And so finally these 2, and I think there were others, went to Donald Trump, and apparently they threatened Donald Trump's wall. These 2 people can fund this wall, and they could cut the funding to that wall.
Yeah.
Remember, that wall is one of Donald Trump's promises to the American people for being elected as President of the United States. Donald Trump has actually done a lot since he came into office. Even the Priebus guy, even he said that Donald Trump has signed so many more bills and passed so many more things than any president that he has seen. And these things that he's passed have been good things. Good things for the country. But of course, you don't see any coverage of that. Not the least of which being he stopped the CIA funding of what are essentially terrorists in the Syria situation. So these people went to Donald Trump, they threatened the wall, and of course Donald Trump, in his typical fashion, made these tweets. Here's something about those tweets. They have no power whatsoever. This is what I think happened, and you all can comment on this. I think these tweets were essentially a, hey everybody, American people, look at what these jackasses are trying to make me do. Because the tweets have no official power. And basically this just blew the lid off of what has been trying to be forced through through the White House or that sort of thing. And I just think that's what it was. Because before, it was all being done behind closed doors. This was not known that these people were doing this. This only came out recently. And now, Donald Trump, of course, blew the lid right off this thing. You will also notice there's been no other word on this. There's no news story on it. There's no further developments. General Mattis is still has not come out against transgendered, but he has come out against the funding for transgendered surgeries. But he's also come out on the funding for other things that are not related to the military. He wants to basically streamline the military back to a machine that has its specific purpose. And let's face it, what the military is there to do is to break things and kill people. That's the very bottom line of what a military exists for. It's not there to childcare. It's not there to help personal issues the way it's sort of portrayed. The military, the very basis of a military to exist is to defend the country by killing if necessary. Amber was in the military, and she has experience with how things are set up and how difficult actually to have transgendered people in the military are. So Amber, could you go into detail about what you experienced when in the military and how this would cause problems?
Okay, so when I heard this, and of course I saw the outrage, of course that came out right away. But when I heard this, even when they were first talking about it, back when Obama was trying to pass it, I knew that this would cause issues. Because actually being in the military, there are certain things, whether you agree with them or not in practice, there are certain things, certain ways that the Army runs that this will come in conflict with, and it needs time to adjust if they are going to take trans people in for what And the thing is, and a lot of this comes with training. I think the most training in field problems is what I first thought of. Because when you have a trans individual who's actually trans, you run into issues with housing, barracks, because where are they going to be housed? Are they going to be housed with their biological sex or with their gender preference? That's an actual issue, especially when you're talking about housing someone with different reproductive organs, that is an issue. You may have, in training, they try to keep people, the reason why they're housed separately is so that they don't have sexual intercourse, because you don't want people getting pregnant, and you don't want distractions. Now, there are certain ways that they deal with this, with having people on duty that watch the room, the barracks at night. You have hourly shifts to make sure nothing crazy is going on. So there is that, but at the same time, you don't want, there's a reason why males and females, biological males and females, don't room with each other. There is a reason for that. So you would run into that issue. And then you run into the issue of double standards. Now, there already is a double standard set in the military because females are allowed in, and they are allowed a different standard physically. Now, usually this is looked at because of the upper body strength. Most females have, and males have different, biologically have different body strength. Like, it's easier for males to develop their upper body strength, while it's a little harder for females. It can happen, but it's harder, just biologically. And that's not always the case, but in most cases, that's true. So what the military did was say, okay, this is the standard for females that have to meet physically, and this is the standard for males, and they are different. Now, I personally maxed my push-ups and sit-ups as a female. Now, for a male, that would not have been maxing. That maxing is exceeding the amount that you're supposed to do. For a male, that wouldn't, they had different standards. So you already have this different standard set. Now, with that in mind, what does a transgendered individual, what standard are they being held to? That's a question. Like, which standard? Can a male take, they say, well, I'm female, so I get the female body standards, physical PT, and and right there, that's going to upset the other males in the unit. that's going to cause a lot of tension when that double standard is set. You know, especially if they're biologically male or if they're biologically female. Now that would be really hard the other way around. Biological female trying to saying I'm biologically male, I have to meet the male standard. So there's that issue. That's an actual issue that they'd have to figure out what they're going to do. Now, when you talk about actually taking hormones in the military, that is a huge issue because it does affect the person's health. Do they always have to take it? What are the ramifications if they don't take it? This is also an issue. So you're running into a lot of issues that people don't think about right away. Now, when it comes to other health issues, a lot of people don't worry about, like, they don't. It's not an issue. Like certain medical conditions that the Army won't take, they don't take that in consideration. But now, because this is a rights issue and you know they're, and a lot of people, I'm not saying all, but a lot of the people that are getting angry about this, one, have never been in the Army. And you know, it's just because it's a trans issue. And I understand, in a perfect world, and that's to be honest, let's be honest. If war were to hit, let's say war hit the United States or wherever, and it was a surprise attack, and it was on, you know, it was a full engaged war, everybody that could fight would be fighting, so to speak. You know, that wouldn't matter. But when you're talking about a training organization, you have to take this into account. There's also other double standards, grooming, for instance, which, you know, is kind of stupid. Whereas males have to, you know, they have to have buzz cuts and you know, all this stuff, and females can have long hair, but they have to have it up. So can a male, you know, have these double standards? Can a male have long hair and wear makeup as long? But you know, well, makeup's not a real big issue in basic training, but later. But then the other biological males can't, and if they're in a training situation, they're living with other males, that's going to cause hostility. And with someone who's already going through the stress of transitioning, that's an issue. So I mean, there's that issue, and also too, you don't want to you bring a divisive ideology into the military. And while not all trans people are social justice types, if you bring social justice into the military, it will tear the fabric apart because it is so divisive. That's a warning. I mean, that's not a good idea. And I'm sure some people think that's a great idea because they want to divide the military, but very bad idea. And sometimes when especially if you're offering the transition therapy to get in the military, like, oh, well, we offer this. Because to be honest, I'm going to be honest here, the main reason I joined the military was college money. So not everyone joins because they're uber patriotic. That just happens. So you'd have people joining to get this surgery or whatever. They're not joining for the right reasons. And you're setting up this, and it gets costly. I mean, we have enough, there's enough cost in the military. There's enough bureaucratic crap in the military. It's just going to get really hard. And if they don't have, and from what I understand, they didn't have enough time to really transition. So it might actually be really hard, and maybe that's why they're pushing. Yes, you do have bigots. I do realize that there are bigots. But there is also the fact that this is a strain in many ways. So there is that.
Right, and it's like there are several stories out there of actual fully transitioned individuals that are serving in the military, and they're doing well, and good for them. That is, it's a good thing that they're actually proving that a lot of the things that people think aren't true. This is the issue with that, though. I've got no information as to whether they transitioned when in the military, or if they had already transitioned when they joined the military. Something that I'm seeing is there is a SEAL Team 6 individual who served 20 years in the military. They're a hell of a fighter. You know, there is no knocking this individual and their dedication to this country. But when they were in the military, they were male. And when they left the military, they then transitioned to female. This individual is named Kristen Beck. And right now they're being sort of touted as, well, this is how transgendered can actually be in the military, and there's no reason for transgender not to be in the military. The fact of them not being trans when in the military, as in
That's
going
huge,
through the transition when in the military, is being avoided. It's being covered up.
Dishonest.
Yeah, it's dishonest. Bravo to Kristen Beck for serving the military and then having the guts to come out as trans, becoming a woman, and then, while this shit hits the fan, coming out in defense of trans in the military. Bravo to her, because it takes a lot of guts. And here you are, a tough fighter of a SEAL, a Navy SEAL, coming out as trans. That is a big deal, kudos to her. But at the same time, the truth of them not being trans when in the military. Yes, in their mind they may have been trans, but physically and hormonally they were not trans.
Which is a health issue.
Right, it's a health issue. So it's like, there's that. Another thing, I hear people touting this statistic about Viagra. The cost of Viagra for the military is higher than the cost for transitioning transgendered in the military. My question is, why are we giving Viagra to service members? How does this help the fighting force of the military, aside from increasing a chance of pregnancy? I don't think that should be funded. I think General Mattis probably will look at that and say, why are we paying this much money, god damn it? We're a fighting force, not a... Well, maybe we are a fucking force. I don't know. But, it's... there's all kinds of expenses that are involved with the military right now that weren't around in, say, the 40s and 50s. It seems like people think the military is, like I said, a daycare center or a place to improve yourself. Yeah, it's a place to improve yourself to be a better fighter. That's what it was. Like with Amber saying she joined for financial reasons. There are a lot of people that join for financial reasons. I remember when I was watching football with my dad, they'd have these ads for, Army, go Army, or not, be all that you can be in the Army.
Yeah.
And one of the things they touted was, you get your college paid for.
Yep.
The GI Bill.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad flat out saying, that's such bullshit. He was in the Navy. And he said, that GI Bill didn't pay for shit.
It's not that much, to be honest.
It wouldn't pay for college. And it didn't pay for my dad's college. So, the reason why people join the military isn't just, hoorah, go and defend the United States. Mm-hmm. Some do. That's for sure. But a lot of them, they're there for the paycheck, baby. Mm-hmm. They're there to make, learn a skill. They think they're going to learn a skill, and a lot of them do. But they're also there to just get the finances to be able to make it in life.
Yeah.
That is in no way denigrating their service. They did go in there, they did get paid the money, but they did also sacrifice a lot of their life to this country. And like I said, bravo to Kristen Beck for coming out and defending the trans in the military. But at the same time, as Amber stated, there's a lot of complications that are involved with trans in the military. As far as the double standards are concerned, I hate double standards. I hate the fact there are gendered dress codes. I hate the fact there's gendered grooming things. If women can have long hair, then damn it, so should men. That's how it should be. If women can wear skirts, then so should men. If men can wear pants, well, if men wear pants, then women should be able to wear pants. I mean, that's a very superficial thing, but I don't think it's as superficial as we actually make it. Self-expression is an extremely important thing, and society sort of ties us down, and we say, oh, that's so superficial. I don't think it's as superficial as we make it out to be lately. Double standards when it comes to strength and ability. This is something I think people are just going to have to face when it comes to trans issues. And that is, because of trans, double standards should go away. It should be based on your strength, but an average. You have, it's like Amber was saying, they've had levels for females and levels for males. Put those two together, divide them by 2, and do the average. You know, if male or female can meet those requirements, they're in. End of subject. That's how it should be. Of course, we don't live in a perfect world where it can be that way, but maybe someone will think that way. Also, yeah, when I mentioned in a comment in a discussion how the military is there to kill and destroy, I had some guy going off. You've probably heard this sort of reaction before. You know, those people are fighting for your rights to criticize the military. And, yeah, they are. But the fact of the matter is the military is there to destroy and kill. And that may be rough to say, but that is what it's there for. That's why militaries exist. The fact they exist is actually kind of a horror show when you think about it. It's because there are people in other countries that want to kill us. And that, when it comes to humanity, that's pretty sad. We're still doing that kind of thing. Do you have anything else to add, Amber?
I do, and I forgot one of the things I was gonna say, but hopefully it'll come to me. Okay, so we were talking. You mentioned doing an average.
Yeah.
Now, okay, that makes sense to some degree.
Right.
Now, remember, you are going to see. It's either that, or you make it so women are not able to join the military.
Right.
If you don't do that.
Right.
Or you make, because of the physical, only a few would actually make it in, like bodybuilder type women.
Mm-hmm.
Or you make it so you lower the standard.
Mm-hmm.
There is that. And I'm really trying to think of what I had something to say on something. I forget what it was. Think of it later. There's so much on this, like actually having served, and people getting upset because if anyone doesn't say that there's nothing, that this ban isn't 100% wrong, that they're idiots, that they're stupid, and a lot of these people haven't actually been in the service, so they don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
It's annoying, and it's good to kind of get out like exactly what is like how it runs, because people don't seem to understand that.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that in some ways that the Army does need a little bit of reflection and a little bit of altering some of the stupid things that it does. Like there are like some really unessential things, like there's in the Army reg that the only way you can do sex is fucking missionary and no oral sex. I mean, no one does that shit, but it's in the regulation.
So they actually,
okay?
So they actually dictate to you how you can have sex.
Yes.
See,
so
what the fuck is that?
No one follows that shit. It's dumb. It's stupid. So there are some things that aren't. It's like really seriously, but at the same time, they got to work that shit out. They got to.
Right.
But then they got to look at like the actual legit issues, which I think mostly are with health. If someone's dependent on hormones, there is actual thing where that can, hinder being
Mm-hmm.
ready or being ready to fight, and also too that you have people just joining for that reason alone. Like I said, with the financial stuff, if people
Mm-hmm.
join for that, then yeah, they probably will join. And the Army does, the recruiters do this because they just want people to come in.
Mm-hmm.
They'll give you any bait that they want,
Yeah.
just to get people in the military, even if they don't really, naturally, really probably belong. And I think that there's some merit to like, either putting it off or deciding before you go in.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is, people don't understand, it's a really stressful situation sometimes, the Army. And like, everyone has their stresses. Like I had stresses. Everyone has stresses. And so to make that worse is not, especially if you're in a combat situation, not the best thing, obviously. It's just my input, having been in. And there's more I could say, but I keep forgetting some of the stuff because there's a lot to say. Yeah.
Yeah, and something that Amber brought up was the hormones. My experience, I've met, I think, 4 trans people in my life, and while they're transitioning, I noticed the male to female trans. This was not as a big thing, but I noticed the female to male when they were on hormones. Should we say they were unsettled? They were very easily upset. I'm being as diplomatic as I can. I mean, this was my experience. They were very easy to tick off and piss off.
Testosterone. All that
And I think it was testosterone. But I will also say the male to female, when they were first going through when they were setting up their hormone levels, at first they were bad. You know, they were
emotional.
Really emotional.
That's true.
Really emotional, but really violent. And so sometimes they'd be emotional and sometimes they'd be violent. And before you say, well, everybody's like that. No, no, no. I'm talking about the hormone imbalance was a bad thing. And they had to go through several months of getting it balanced out to where they could actually take it and not have it really affect them. And if this is happening in the military,
Oof,
that could be a very bad thing.
That's an issue. That's
right.
That's a reason to actually think about should they be in and go through the change while they're in.
Right. Now this all gets down to sort of my philosophy, and that is, you know, the hormones and the replacement and becoming a different sex and all that. I really don't think these issues would be as big as they are. I'm not saying it would be non-existent, but I don't think they would be as big as they are if people were just allowed to live their lives how they wish to live their lives. Instead of having these gendered rules and telling people, well, you've got a dick, so you have to behave this way and dress this way and look this way and act this way. And you've got a vagina and you have to act this way. You can't do these certain things and all this sort of shit. I think a lot of this stuff that we're dealing with right now is due to these restrictions that have been placed upon people. Are these restrictions that would have someone, if they were a bigot, come into this room and look at me, they call me a faggot or something like that because of the way I dress. This sort of stuff I don't think would be as big a deal if it wasn't for those limits and rules and restrictions placed upon people because of their biological buildup. That was a little rant there, and I don't apologize for it. That's how I feel about this whole mess. Now, if I'm wrong about that, please put it in the comments. Like I said, I don't think it would be completely non-existent. I don't think the trans issue would be completely non-existent, but I don't think it would be as prevalent and as big an issue as it is today. Now, there's one more note I want to say, and I think I alluded to this earlier. There has been no further action upon these tweets. You will notice. People are still calling Trump a piece of shit for putting these things out. But there's been no further tweets concerning these. There's been no further action from the White House or from the government concerning this. The military has stated, no, we're keeping our transgendered service members. So, frankly, I think this is just blowing the door open on what was going on with these two people. I'm going to put a link to the Congresswoman who was pushing for this. I want you to read about her. She did put out a congratulatory letter for all intents and purposes to Donald Trump for putting these tweets out. She was all for this. And I could sort of see her not wanting to fund the transition services, but at the same time not wanting an all-out ban and no effort to accept trans people into the military. That's a disgusting thing to do. Alright, well, that's about it, and please leave comments. Bye-bye.